I'm going to start taking notes for the movies that we watch so we can, summarize well.
I get that, Phil.
Don't say his name.
The first thing was that, indeed, Ezra Miller is insufferably whiny.
I'll also say my notes aren't good. These aren't good notes. I suck at taking notes. These are mostly like stream of consciousness thoughts that I'm having while watching it. I did try to keep track of like time frames for the first 12 minutes.
There will be spoilers, by the way.
Oh, so many spoilers.
We only watched it out of pure interest because, full disclosure,
we watched all of CW Flash.
Almost all. We stopped at a particular season.
So for this next, I'll read my note and then we'll address what my note says. Okay, so first note. Very weird.
So I believe that is probably referencing, like, during the first, 15, 20 minutes, we thought we were supposed to have watched...
It's like, I'm a surgeon!
Yeah, like
that's what I felt like I was watching.
It's like he's trying to order coffee, but other things are happening, and we're like, did we miss something, like a prequel?
Like, he's going off about wanting to meet this Sarah at the coffee shop because she makes his food in a very specific way. Like, he's very OCD about, like, but Sarah works here. She needs to, and it was weird.
He has zero social skills, so whatever.
Within the first 12 minutes, these are all of my notes. Very weird. Wants a Sarah at coffee shop. Bad CGI babies. What the fuck is going on? What did Batman do? So these are my notes from the first 12 minutes.
Yeah, and so all we know is he's being contacted to clean up one of Batman's situations, which is apparently a hospital collapsing, which is how the fuck did Batman do that?
Yeah.
And these babies fall out of a nursing ward and they're falling out the window.
The worst CGI
They
babies.
literally look like Joe fucking Pesci in baby form.
It reminded me of
ridiculous.
the early 2000s, that baby dance where it's going in a circle. Oh. That baby was probably animated better.
That baby? The Uka Chugga baby?
I can't remember. It's just that dancing baby from the early 2000s. That baby was animated better than the babies in this movie.
There's a whole bunch of these babies falling out of the window.
There's a bunch of babies falling out of a window.
This is arguably
on par with the CGI of this movie.
Yeah, 144p. It even actually might look better.
It probably actually does, to be honest. So he puts a baby in a microwave. He, saves these babies as they're falling out of a window from this hospital that's falling in on itself because Batman did something.
Yeah. And then
Wonder Woman shows up.
Yeah, and then he just goes back and gets his coffee.
Yeah. And then we have awkward Batman. Oh, and then before he goes and gets coffee, he says, "I know sex exists. I've just never experienced it."
Oh yes. So they tried to shoehorn in some jokes that were just weird. Was that a joke?
Was that a joke? I don't understand.
Yeah, that was on the bridge. So Batman was, doing as Batman does, and in an effort to catch 3 people, destroyed 48 city blocks, and he finally catches one of them or whatever, and as he's holding him, the Flash is holding one of the other guys, and Wonder Woman shows up, and Ben Affleck as Batman is like, hey Diana, you're looking hot. And she's like, hey, Batman, you look like a loser as usual.
And then, Batman talks about his, childhood trauma and how he never got therapy for it, so he's Batman instead.
Yeah, and then the Flash just goes...
Which was trying to be, meta humor, but it just didn't
I know
work.
what sex is, I just never experienced it. And you're like, what the fuck was that?
And then Barry finally gets to work.
Yeah, and then Barry goes to work, because he's late for work.
He's late for work.
30 minutes.
Insufferable bully coworkers. They're just bad.
He's got 2 friends that are just caddy.
Well, they're not his friends in this realm, but in a different universe.
Oh my god, are these Barry's friends? That means you've got, let me see, 1.
And then I also have the note, Evan would stop watching, but he knows Michael Keaton is in it. And this is about maybe half an hour into the movie.
I was just...
Oh, and then I also would rather watch CW show or 70s Flash Gordon movie. That's where we're
Absolutely.
Flash... His running form.
The CG to begin with is bad. It's really bad.
Mortal Kombat level. But that was even good when it came out because it was in the 90s. My next two notes are literally why the bad CGI babies, more bad CGI. Because the CGI babies come up again and again in this movie. You don't see them only in the first 12 minutes. You see them constantly throughout the movie. These terribly rendered CGI babies.
When he goes into, that's probably, so one thing the Flash can do is if he runs fast enough, he can manipulate time.
So yeah, that he goes back in time. That's the huge part of this movie.
In the Speed Force. He's in the Speed Force bubble. And everything outside of the bubble looks like a Pixar movie.
Yeah. My next note is actually 18-year-old Barry is annoying because he travels back in time. Like, if you know the Flash storyline at all, there's like that flashpoint, right? Where he travels back in time to save his mom. So that's essentially what the story is.
So let's flesh this out a bit before we move on.
I'm going to top up my coffee. BRB.
So the story of the Flash is Barry's mom dies when he's young. Barry goes into a life of trying to, like a criminal analyst. During his time working on a case, lightning strikes him. It strikes a bunch of chemicals that hit him and fuse him with Flash powers. As Barry starts to understand the things he's able to do, they theorize that he could travel back in time if he went fast enough. And he reaches this flashpoint bubble, the Speed Force, where you can basically rotate the dial of time, right? And in this thing, the graphics are so bad.
Yeah, it's
really
like Sims
terrible.
level CGI. It's so bad.
They don't, like in the CW show, the one thing that this movie is leaving out is that the Flash has a nemesis.
Eobard Thawne.
Eobard Thawne, who is the Reverse Flash. And I can't fully remember why. Maybe I'll look it up. Why he hates the Flash.
They're related somehow. No, because I think Flash like killed his family member. I don't know.
Let me bring it up here. So, why does Eobard Thawne hate the Flash? Eobard Thawne hates Barry Allen in the Flash because the superhero himself upstaged him in the biggest moment of. Oh yes, because Eobard Thawne figured out how to make the speed.
The Speed Force, yeah.
Yeah. So Thawne idolized Barry in the 21st century and wanted to become just like him. He did it by experimenting with the Speed Force and managed to be just as fast as the Flash. But just as he's about to come up to become his own hero, the Flash comes out and saves the day, humiliating Thawne. Thawne hates Barry because of it, vows to become faster than him and destroy him, type of thing.
What they decide to go with is, because this does happen.
Well, don't skip too far ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry, my bad.
So because Eobard Thawne is not in this movie, he just stumbles upon the ability to travel back in time and pick particular points in time.
He just says to 18-year-old Barry, you haven't discovered the ability to do that yet. They just kind of leave that open-ended. But it is Eobard Thawne who helps him.
Yeah, so instead of him like being intelligent and theorizing and trying to achieve this task, he's just stupid, dumb Ezra Miller accidentally getting so mad that he reaches Speed Force.
Yeah.
But while he's in the Speed Force...
Oh, so yeah, as he's because he travels back in time to save his mom. And then as he's traveling back forward in time, he gets pushed out of the Speed Force. By the bad guy.
A really scary looking dude.
Yeah, and they did kind of... Because in the original storyline, there is another bad guy that is Barry. That happens in the CW. So what they did in this movie is they kind of combined two storylines, as like, movies are wont to do. And they combine like kind of like the reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, with like this other storyline.
Yes, Barry gets pushed out by what you will come to find out is known as Black Flash or Evil Barry.
Yeah.
So a lot of people talk about the interplay with the two Barrys because he goes back in time. So there's two Barrys, right? I find it insufferable. And I find the reason they put other characters in this movie is because...
Yeah, they nostalgia bait a lot in an effort to make it good.
Yeah, like they had to do that because Ezra Miller is too annoying to carry the movie by themselves.
There was a point where I actually said to Evan, I was like, for a Flash movie, there's sure a lot of Batman and Supergirl in this movie.
Yeah, the Michael Keaton part is the best part of the whole movie.
God bless Michael Keaton. That's my next note.
Yeah, God bless
and
Michael
then,
Keaton.
Nostalgia bait, best bit of movie.
Yeah, so they do like when they're basically the whole thing that the Flash realizes, which Batman helps him realize, is there are some fundamental points in time that cannot be changed. Your mother has to die, because if she doesn't, nothing else happens as it should.
They did do a good job kind of explaining the multiverse.
Yeah, well, actually they did.
Where Michael Keaton's Batman character basically made like a tub of pasta and like poured it into a bowl, and he's like, this is like the multiverse where you have like some going in like tandem with each other, and then it's just, like, I don't know. That was a really good analogy for the multiverse, was that bowl of spaghetti.
Yeah,
that
he
was probably...
puts one piece of spaghetti and he says, this is your timeline. And then he puts another piece of spaghetti and he says, like across it. And he's like, this is an intersection. What you did is you went on this timeline and switched. But then he takes the whole pot and goes, and now you have to try and figure it out.
But the whole reason why they had to go find Batman is because Zod is there. Michael Shannon is there as Zod. And he's looking for the son of Krypton. Or the
Superman.
Kryptonian. Which... then the Flash, and Batman go to find. And so they have to go to Russia. And so they're in Russia, and lo and behold, they actually find Supergirl. So at the very end, when all of the multi-timelines are falling in on each other, we get a view into all of the timelines. So we briefly see Nicolas Cage as Superman. You hear Eartha Kitt as Catwoman off in the background.
And Adam Wee.
Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of... You see the other Flash with like, the helmet? That Flash guy.
They have to fight Zod, but there's the two Barrys. When Barry found New Barry, he took him to the place where he got his powers in the lightning storm. And what happened was New Barry got the powers and existing Barry lost his powers. So then it's all, how am I going to get my powers back? We need to find Batman. And so they basically, using Supergirl after they find her, get both the Flashes their powers back. So now there's two Flashes with the Flash Speed Force. And they're fighting Zod and all this stuff. Well, while they're fighting Zod, Batman and Supergirl unfortunately don't survive. I don't know a ton about Zod, but he's Kryptonian.
Yeah.
And he's super strong. And they're not doing so well.
He's as strong as any other Kryptonian who would come to Earth.
Like,
yeah. You kept asking me, like, why does he have superpowers?
Well, why couldn't he fly? Like super people, Superman and Supergirl. That's why I didn't know he was as strong as the other ones.
Well, yeah, any Kryptonian that comes to Earth would have, like, superpowers. They're superpowered by the sun.
Yeah, I just didn't know that. I don't know a lot about it. I don't even remember the movie that Zod was in.
It was the one with Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
I will find him!
I remember that part. So, basically what happens is Michael Keaton dies, Supergirl dies. Then the new Barry, who's not as experienced with
time dilation.
He hasn't quite figured out why they can't fuck around.
Yeah.
And the original Barry is kind of figuring it out. So the new Barry goes, no, we can fix this. We can go back in time. And he goes back in time, and they just die a different way. Yeah. And they do it a couple times, and they cannot get it to change. And old Barry says to new Barry, we can't change this. This world will collapse. And then, as Krissy indicated, new Barry's like, you're telling me you're just going to let mom die. And then he disappears.
The person who like pushed him out of the Time Force when he had originally gone back was like this other
Coyote and
Barry
Skrull.
from like way in the future when he had tried multiple times trying to like fix this like the murder of Supergirl by Zod.
Yeah, and he comes back. It's seemingly seconds, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
He's all fucked up. He's basically like every time he got into a battle, like Zod or someone stabbed him with something, and it like becomes him.
Which is what happens in the CW.
Yeah.
He tries to go back a lot to save Iris. Except, so like I said, it is, they are kind of combining two storylines that you find in the original Flash, which is when Eobard Thawne becomes Reverse Flash, but he murdered the Flash's mother. And then when there's the Black Flash, which is Barry from the future traveling back in time a lot, trying to fix like Flashpoint or whatever.
In the CW show, when Barry is trying to fix his mother's death, he encounters other versions of himself. And one of them is like the original Flash, who says, listen, you gotta quit fucking around. Shit's getting bad. These time demons are gonna come and eat you. And then there's this other thing, which turns out to be Black Flash, or like basically he is the Flash as pure hate, and he hates the original Barry for creating him to begin with, right? Like the only reason he exists is because the original Barry created that schism. And so it's this, it is in the CW they flush it out more, obviously, if they have more time and more seasons. And it makes a lot of sense, and it's a very interesting twist.
But in the movie, as like all these timelines are imploding in on themselves, you very briefly see the Nicolas Cage Superman, which that was an interesting choice to make.
Yeah, was he actually like slotted to be Superman?
So they were going to make a Superman movie, and there is footage of Nicolas Cage in the Superman outfit. You can find it, and he had long hair. Like, I'm certain that they basically just artificially intelligenced that footage that they had. Like, Google it. I'm sure you can find it. Just search Nicolas Cage as Superman. So they have him very briefly as Nicolas Cage. Like I said, you very briefly hear Eartha Kitt as Catwoman talking in the distance. They show Christopher Reeve for probably about a minute as Superman. And then at the very end of the movie, when Barry gets back to what he thinks is his timeline, out comes Batman, and it's fucking George Clooney.
They didn't actually say who murdered his mom. And Barry changes the past to get his dad out of jail, which doesn't happen. His dad is the one accused of murdering the mom.
I think if I recall correctly, his dad does eventually get out of jail, but it's just for being like a good prisoner, and essentially there was enough evidence that came forward that proved that he wasn't there. And I think that's the way they portrayed it, is that Bruce Industries created new technology that they were able to take the security camera footage from the day of the murder and prove that it was him, because in the original footage you can't prove because there's so much like static electricity over the security camera footage.
Yeah.
And then when he traveled back in time, I guess it helped create technology that was able to spruce up the security camera footage so you can see that it's him.
He also, like, the one way he tried to save his mom, they changed the whole story in a sense of how his mom dies. That the dad goes to the grocery stores because the mom forgot to get tomatoes. And his mom is Italian.
Honestly, I would consider this more of a Batman movie than a Flash movie.
Yeah. So he also moves the tomatoes from the bottom shelf to the top shelf. Yeah. So his dad looks up in the video instead of doesn't look up at all. And it's a bad movie. The storyline is horrendous. Even though it's a storyline based upon the multi-dimensional stuff, which does get hazy, they did such a bad job with... I can only imagine how much the CGI cost and how bad it looks. Like, it's so bad. Like you said, the way he runs, so he starts off like, say, normal running Barry, like a normal human. You take slower strides into more rapid paces, and it looks normal, and then he hits the speed force and he goes into ice skating mode. Yeah. And he's just ice skating across the world. And you're like, why don't you make his fucking legs move fast so it doesn't look so weird?
I would much rather watch the CW Flash. Like, and like, I don't even mean that like ironically. Like, 100% would much rather watch the CW Flash than this piece of shit. Oh,
absolutely. And everybody knows the CW.
CW sucks.
Yeah, the CW pumps every show full of, you know, filler and stuff like that. But at least it had some... Not that I'm upset that they changed core concepts, because I don't know the original Flash story and blah, blah, blah. It's probably changed a bunch of times. My big problem is no matter what the moment was, be it climactic or sad or anything, Ezra Miller sucked. His voice was so... There's one time where he's becoming Black Flash, and he actually is like, I am the Flash. And you're like, why did you change back to the fucking whiny voice?
Probably
I'm the Flash.
The moment that made me laugh, reminded me of the moment that made me laugh out loud the most, and that's when Old Barry and New Barry are hanging out with Barry's roommates, who are his annoying bully coworkers in his original timeline. But
yeah, you're right.
When they're hanging out as his roommates and they're talking about trying to find Batman, and then the one female takes like a big chug of beer and then bursts and she's like, I'm Batman.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That was the funniest line.
That's true. That's true. Because he's like, do you guys know Superman? They're like, what? Superman? What is a Superman?
And then he's like, what about Batman? And then she's like, I'm Batman.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was the funniest bit.
I know... Keaton had a couple of
he had a few good...
funny...
Michael Keaton's great, though. God bless Michael Keaton. It makes me want to watch the Birdman movie.
That was a good movie.
That's a great movie.